Hi, this is Maggie from Crafts the Charm. Thank you for stopping by my channel. I'm so glad you're here. And today I want to make some industrial art, and I'm going to start with these poker chips, which I got from the Dollar Tree. And what I have here is a picture of a rusty storm drain, and that's going to be my sort of model for making these poker chips look like they're made of rusty metal. And here I have one that I already did. I'm going to be using this apple barrel acrylic paint in Granite Gray and apple barrel acrylic paint in bright red. And I'm going to mix those two colors together to get a gray that has that sort of red undertone in it. And then I'm just going to paint all of the poker chips. That's our first coat. And then dab over that with just the Granite Gray for some texture. Alright, now that that has dried, I'm going to use this apple barrel pumpkin orange acrylic paint and some Deco Art Americana Burnt Umber. I'm going to mix those paints, not completely, let's leave a little brown, leave a little orange, but mix them together to get a sort of a rust color, and then I'm going to apply it as randomly as humanly possible to the poker chips. These are all going to be part of one piece, so they don't all have to have a lot of rust on them. We want to think of this in its entirety, so some will have less rust and some will have more rust. Now with the areas of rust sort of defined with that mixed color, I'm going to go in with the orange and with the brown to add the brighter and the darker areas of the rust. And now I'm going to take some apple barrel black paint and the Granite Gray again and mix them together to get a darker gray color and put that over the chips. So I'm going to leave the rust areas peeking through and a little bit of the lighter gray peeking through. And you can vary how much rust and of the light gray you want to show through, but I'm mostly going to cover it with this darker gray color. And that's it for the poker chips. I love the sort of textury look that you get from mixing that dark and light gray, and with the dark gray on top, it looks like the rust is eating away at the dark gray. So you could seal those. I am not going to seal them. I'm going to leave them just painted. Now, I found this 8x10" frame at the Dollar Tree, and I absolutely love it. I love that it has this industrial metal look. So I'm going to take a piece of cardboard and cut it so that it will fit inside this frame. And of course, I can just use the insert to the frame to trace around on a piece of cardboard to get the correct size. Now I have this burlap, or I don't think it's fabric, I don't think it's really burlap, but this burlap-like fabric, which I got at the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to use this to cover the cardboard. So I'm just going to cut that so that it's about 1 inch or 3/4 of an inch, somewhere in there, larger than the cardboard on every side. And then I'm just going to hot glue that down to the back of the cardboard. And with that done, I'm going to fit it in my frame so that when I place the poker chips inside the frame, I'm not accidentally going into the area where the frame will be, so that they're all on the inside. And I'm just going to put them in rows, as you can see here, one row of 5, then a row of 4, then a row of 5, etc., down to the bottom of the frame. And I'm just going to arrange them in a pleasing way so that there's a lot of variation, and then I'm just going to hot glue them in place. Now you could certainly leave that frame as is. Again, I do love that frame, but I think I want a little more color in here and a sort of a contrasting color. So I'm going to paint this frame, and I'm also going to make this look a little bit rusty. I do enjoy rust. And the color I want to go for here is a sort of a bluish greenish industrial color. And I want this to look like it's painted but rusted. So I'm going to use Folk Art Home Decor chalk paint in Cascade, and I'm going to mix into that a little bit of Adirondack white, and I'm also going to mix in a little bit of acrylic paint for some green. And what I have for green is this Ceramcoat Jubilee green. So that's what I'm going to mix in. Mixed in a little too much, so I added a little bit more blue to this. All right, so to paint it, I'm going to paint directly the cascade onto the frame. And I'm trying to cover it mostly, but I am letting a little bit of that black show through. We'll say that that's sort of grime or wear. And then once I've painted that on while it's still wet, I'm going to drag some of that blue-green-white mix over it. And I don't want that to look like it's a separate color. I want to mix it in a little bit, but not necessarily throughout. So I do think it's subtle and maybe a little bit difficult to see on camera, but here you can see the contrast. One side, the right side, the top side, I've done with the mix of colors, and the left side or bottom side is just the cascade, and you can see that looks a lot more flat. So I am just going to paint that all over the frame, and of course on the inside and the outside edges of the frame. All right, and now that that's dry, I do love it the way it looks now, but I'm going to give it a little bit of rust. And this time I'm going to use Folk Art Home Decor chalk paint in Java. That's a very dark brown. And I'm going to start by tapping that on primarily around the edges and also at those miter joints of the frame, and just a little bit in some inner spots on the frame. And I am not exactly dry brushing this, but I've taken a little bit of paint off of the paintbrush before I start putting it on the frame because I don't want it to be too heavy. You can always add more. Now I want to have a lighter brown in here as well, so I'm going to use this apple barrel burnt umber I ran out of the other burnt umber. And I'm basically going to dab that in the same places, but I'm not going to completely cover the Java, and I might go around the Java a little bit with this lighter color. And now we're going to throw some apple barrel harvest orange into the mix. Very little. I do not want to overdo the orange on this one. So I'm going to mix that with some of the burnt umber and just dab that in some places around the frame where there is already some of the brown rust. And here's how that looks. Alright, so with that all dry, I'm just putting my poker chip burlap cardboard piece into the frame, and I do want to give it one more element around the frame, although I do like it the way it is. So I have these pieces of, I think I got it in the flooring department at Home Depot, and I had bought it for another project, which I have not made. So I thought I would use it for this one. And I think it's like a carpet threshold. Very, very inexpensive, and we're only going to need one piece of it for this. So I'm just going to put it around the edges of the frame, and I am just going to hot glue it in place, and I am not going to attempt to miter the edges. So I'm just going to do the length of the piece, and then I'll do pieces across the bottom that will be the width plus the other edges. So I'm going to attach the pieces one at a time. And this is pretty easy to cut. I'm just going to cut it with my aviation snips. And now you should figure out what way you want to hang this, vertically or horizontally, or maybe sometimes one way, sometimes the other. And you might want to put a little hanger on the back. I am out of picture hangers, so I didn't show it here, but I did actually just hot glue some jute twine to the back of this until I can get a picture hanger. This is a really, really lightweight piece. That frame from the Dollar Tree without the glass in it is very lightweight. This carpet threshold, whatever it is very, very light. And of course, poker chips, cardboard, and burlap are light. So very easy to hang this by a piece of jute twine, but I would really prefer to put a picture hanger on the back. As I said, I just don't have one. And here it is. So what do you think? Please tell me in the comments. Tell me how you would have done it differently. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you enjoyed this sort of content, please subscribe to Craft the Charm. Thank you for spending time with me today. Take care.